Okay, this is one of my absolute favorite topics in the muscular system. It's muscles in children, and I can never leave it out. So I think in some way it affects us all. First of all, we've all been children. Second of all, some of us may have children, or we may be exposed to children through babysitting, through family, through friends. It's just interesting stuff to know. All right, skeletal muscles and children. Who can't handle some more pictures of children? I know, I just kind of can't get enough of it. All right, so muscular development. Muscles develop superiorly to inferiorly. So that means as babies are developing, they can lift their heads up before they can walk. Muscles also develop proximally to distally. So that means I can move my arm randomly before I can fine tune and grasp objects. So again, muscles develop from superior to inferior and from proximal to distal. Superior to inferior whole body, proximal to distal on the arms, and proximal to distal on the legs. Now there are some stages of muscular development. I'm just going to talk about some key ones. So the newborn stage has flexed arms and flexed legs. Remember, to fit inside the uterus, inside the amniotic sac, that fetus needed to be bent and squashed. So when a newborn is born, they're still kind of bent and squashed. And their arms and legs tend to stay in that position. Around 6 to 8 weeks, an infant is able to raise its head to about 45 degrees when prone, that's laying face down. So you can see this lovely illustration here. And here are some more. Around 6 to 8 weeks, an infant is able to lift its head to about 45 degrees. Okay, around 3 to 6 months, infants begin rolling over. You can see that sometimes that arm gets stuck in that process. And so infants kind of learn how to have to pull that arm out when it gets stuck in order to complete the process. Again, from 3 to 6 months, infants begin rolling over. Usually from back to stomach first, a little harder to do the stomach to back. Around 6 to 8 months, infants are able to sit without support. All right, so again, around 6 to 8 months, infants are able to sit up without support. So no pillows behind them. They're able to use their core muscles and do it on their own. Around 8 to 9 months, infants begin crawling. Not all infants crawl in the same way, though. Some will army crawl, some will scoot. Okay, these all show similar methods of crawling, but it does not have to look the same. Around 12 to 15 months, infants are walking. Okay, again, around 12 to 15 months, infants are walking. All right, so let's talk about motor skills. So we have gross motor skills and fine motor skills. Now in class, like it just asked about videos, we'll show videos. I'm not going to show them within this video, but the key points are here. So in fine motor skills, we have small muscles for precise tasks. So our fingers, our lips, and our tongue. Helps us do things like feeding, like talking, like turning pages, like cutting, art projects, things like that. Activities that support fingerprint, painting, stacking blocks, stacking cups, using crayons, pencils, markers, rolling balls of Play-Doh and clay. All right, now gross motor skills are our big muscles for big movements. So our arms, our legs, our torso. Helps us walk, helps us sit, run, throw, do big movements. Ways you can support it: tummy time, having infants sit once they can, playing things like Simon Says for big movements, playing on playgrounds, playing sports, throwing balls. All great stuff to support gross motor. So how can you help muscular development in general? Well, you can alternate crib direction. So what does that mean? You alternate the direction they sleep in the crib each night. So each morning they're going to have to turn their head in a different direction to see. So that means here's the head on this side, This night when I put the baby to bed this way, the next night the head is on this side. So when I put the baby to bed, so when I come into the room, I have to turn their head in a different way. And even if the infant is in the same room as you, still alternate the direction that you put them in the crib. It helps to develop those neck muscles and core muscles because they have to turn their head in different directions. Whether they're in a crib, whether they're in a bassinet, whether they are in co-sleeping attachment to your bed, put them in a different way. Allow them to use those different muscles. Okay, baby wearing. What is it? So use a sling, a wrap, a carrier of some kind to hold the baby. And it allows you to carry the baby while leaving a hand or two free for the adult. Now, if you have a more mobile child, you're going to want to have them on the back if you're doing something more dangerous, like working with knives, cooking, so that they do not get hurt, okay? And why do we do this? Well, it helps to prevent flat spots because the baby is positioned vertically. Baby should sleep on their back in the crib or bassinet or whatever, but some babies tend to spend more time on their back because they're in their crib, and then they're in their car seat, and then they're in their swing. So if a baby is constantly positioned horizontally on their back, it can lead to the development of flat spots. So allowing the baby to be positioned vertically is advantageous. Here are some more examples, okay? Having the baby held in some way, wearing the baby, carrying the baby, without just using your arms. Absolutely, you can use your arms, but it does get tiring and it limits what you are able to do. But there are lots and lots of ways to wear a baby that still gives you some freedom of movement and the ability to continue to do the things that you need to do or want to do. All right, tummy time. Placing the baby on their stomach when awake and supervised. Should be 2 to 3 times a day from birth. Starting short, just 3 to 5 minutes, because sometimes some babies really hate it. So you're not going to want to, antagonize them for 20 minutes at once. Start small. And if they really don't like it, it might just be a minute or so at first. Why do we do it? Well, it helps develop neck, shoulder, core muscles. Also helps prevent flat spots because, again, a time off of the back. So tummy time, it's important. All right, playing with toys. But toys could just be household items like pots and pans. Obviously not knives and things like that, but safe pots and pans, measuring cups, spoons, those kind of things. It allows a baby to experience textures, sounds, colors, patterns when you allow them to play with toys and simple household items. Remember taking safety into account. Babies learn about the world through play. They practice, they learn. So allow them to do those things. Play is super important, whether it's with household items or with toys. Okay, mealtime. What do I mean? Well, allowing babies to finger feed. So soft, small, appropriate foods. They're not just giving them, a whole giant steak when they're like 8 months old and eating. Okay. Allow them to drink from a cup. So you can see it's not a sippy cup on that tray. It's a regular cup. You fill a small amount in there. Yes, there are going to be messes, but maybe still need to learn how to drink from cups. Using silverware. Obviously softer silverware at first. And then as children grow, they can start to help prepare meals. Even as children as young as between 1 and 2 can start that process. You can show them how to do it safely. So with their parents and caregivers, they can learn how to prepare meals for themselves. And they may not get it perfect, but practice is important. Even using knives, they can be shown the proper way. They can be helped through the process. And why do we do this? Well, they learn to grasp. They learn hand-eye coordination, so picking up that cup, learning you have to bring it to your mouth, and that depth perception. Also, it helps gaining independence and also sensory processing. So we learn what's sticky and cold and warm, and that spatial awareness, learning about where my body is in space and how I have to move myself to do what I need to do. All right, so mealtime is super important and getting kids young kids even involved in the process of preparing is important. Okay, one way you can do that is to serve things family style. So meaning all the things are out on the table. Children learn to pour, they learn to scoop, they learn to portion. All of those are great skills. All right, physical activity and sports. Get moving, play hopscotch, go to playgrounds, tricycles, scooters, dancing, obstacle courses, sports, martial arts, swim, bubble play. So many things you can think about. Well, it aids the gross motor development and coordination. So get kids moving in any way that you can. Whether it's just at home and at playgrounds or in organized sports. You don't have to do organized sports, but you have to get moving. Lots of ways to get moving. Lots of ways to get physical activity. Right? Lots of ways to get moving. Lots of ways to get that physical activity in. So it can just be in the backyard. It can just be at the park, or it can be with an organized team. All right, art skills. So using scissors, using pencils, markers, crayons, paint, all that good stuff. Why? Well, it helps develop fine motor skills, which we need in order to write. So art skills, very important. Use paint. Can start with finger painting. Use markers, pens, crayons, scissors. Let kids use scissors. Well, don't just let them use scissors without supervision, but let them use scissors. Let them practice. Okay, getting dressed. Allowing children to dress themselves and practice things like buttoning, like tying, like zipping, like lacing, and tying their shoes. Super important. Why? Why does it matter? Well, helps them gain independence. And especially if you allow them to choose their own clothing, it allows them to gain some independence. Let them have some input. Let them decide some things for themselves. As young children, so many things are decided for them. So letting them gain some independence and decide for them their clothing, and also to put them on it themselves. It helps develop fine motor skills. So to button, to tie, to zip, to lace, those things are fine motor skills. But also gross motor skills. It requires some balance and coordination. As anyone who has attempted to put one leg into a pair of pants while standing on the other leg knows, it involves some coordination. Now, there's a technique, the Montessori coat flip, where you set the coat, you can see on the ground right here, like this, with the armholes and the neck closest to the feet. And the child puts their arms in the coat like this, flips it up over their head, lets the coat fall down, and voila, they have the coat on. So there's no struggle of like, put one arm in and then try to reach your arm like this. Okay, Montessori coat flip. If you don't do it with your kid, do it. Allows them to get it on. Okay, but they need the practice. All right, W sitting. So here's my PSA. W sitting, terrible. It's when you sit with the knees in front, but ankles are on either side of your hips. You can see it looks like a W. Looks like a W. Why is it bad? Well, it can result in hip, ankle, or knee dislocation. The position puts strain on your hips and strains on the joints, which can increase the likelihood of dislocation. Not a guarantee, it just increases the risk. It means you have some limited core and trunk strength developing. The wide stance of W sitting is easier to sit. It actually creates some stability, but children who sit like this then don't use their core and their back muscles as much, so they end up with less strength. Also, there's a lack of cross-body movements. Because it's so stable, it makes it more difficult to rotate your upper body to reach to the other side. So children who sit like this tend to use their right hand to reach for things on the right side and their left hand to reach for things on the left side, and are less likely to perform cross-body movements because there's limited rotation when sitting in that stable position. So what are some alternatives? I just say fix your legs, but sitting crisscross applesauce on a small chair or a small stool with your legs off to one side, with your legs in front of you, on your knees. lots of ways to sit that don't put the same strain on your joints and that don't limit your core strength development. In class, we'll play a blue dip. And there you have it, muscles and children. I hope you learned something new today, and I hope it was just as interesting for you.